If you are still holding out hope for a happy, peaceful resolution for our beloved Stone Cold next week, I am here to tell you to prepare for a brutal heartbreak. The door is officially slamming shut on the life we thought he was building, and the devastation heading our way is going to leave a permanent mark on Port Charles. We have all been watching the subtle shifts, the unspoken tension, and the heavy burdens weighing down on him, but nothing could have prepared us for the bombshell that is about to drop. The writers are not giving us a fairy tale ending this time. Instead, we are staring down the barrel of a shocking exit that will shatter alliances and break hearts in ways we never thought possible. Let us set the stage, guys, because the current chaotic landscape of Port Charles is nothing short of a powder keg waiting for a single fatal spark. Right now, Jason Morgan is standing at the absolute epicenter of a massive, devastating storm. We have just witnessed the absolute madness surrounding the Windermere hostage crisis, a horrifying ordeal with Ross Cullum, and the jaw-dropping twist that it was young Rocco Falconeri who actually pulled the trigger. Jason, in his classic self-sacrificing nature, took the fall for the boy. He sat in that WSB interrogation room, willing to trade his own freedom and his very life to protect Sonny Corinthos' nephew. He was fully prepared to let the steel doors of a federal prison slam shut behind him if it meant keeping Rocco safe from the terrifying grasp of the authorities. But while Jason was busy playing the ultimate protector, the collateral damage was bleeding out right in front of him. His own son, Danny Morgan, was dragged into the police station, interrogated, and pushed to the absolute brink of despair. Danny was screaming his father's innocence from the rooftops, completely terrified that he was going to lose his dad all over again after just getting him back from the dead. The sheer trauma etched onto Danny's face has fundamentally changed something deep inside Jason. He is looking around at the mob violence, the constant threats from the WSB, the betrayals, and the endless cycle of danger, and he is realizing that this toxic environment is poisoning the only thing that truly matters to him. Jason is watching Danny rebel, break into secure facilities, and act out in ways that terrifyingly mirror his own dark past. The fear of Danny becoming another casualty of the mob life is keeping Jason awake at night, haunting his every waking moment. He knows that his mere presence in Sonny's inner circle puts a giant, unavoidable target on his son's back. The weight of this realization is crushing him, forcing him to reevaluate every single choice he has made since he first lost his memory and became Sonny's enforcer. But that's not even the craziest part. You have to understand the profound psychological shift happening within Jason right now. For decades, this man has been the unwavering enforcer, the loyal soldier who would take a bullet for Sonny without a second thought. But the long-buried secret of his own vulnerability is finally coming to the surface in a spectacular fashion. Jason is looking at Danny and seeing the ghost of his own lost years. He remembers the time he missed while he was held captive by the WSB, the birthdays and milestones he was absent for, and the incredibly dangerous situations his lifestyle has inadvertently forced upon his children. The realization hitting him is a complete bombshell. Danny does not need a mob enforcer, Danny needs a father. The pressure of the criminal underworld is suffocating them both, and Jason is finally waking up to the harsh reality that, as long as he remains tethered to Sonny Corinthos, his son will never, ever be safe. If you ask me, the impending confrontation between Jason and Sonny is going to wreak devastation on their decades-long brotherhood. Jason cannot protect his son by simply standing in front of him with a gun anymore. He has to physically remove him from the battlefield. The mental toll of this realization is staggering. Jason is a man of honor and loyalty, but his loyalty has shifted entirely to his blood. He knows that stepping away from the organization will cause a massive earthquake in Port Charles. Sonny is already relying heavily on Rick Lansing, a move that Jason absolutely despises, and Jason's departure will leave Sonny incredibly vulnerable to enemies like Jen Sidwell. But Jason no longer cares about the territory, the shipments, or the mob wars. He is willing to burn his old life to the ground, to walk away from the empire he helped build, just to save his sons. But that's not even the craziest part. This brings us to the jaw-dropping twist that is going to leave everyone completely speechless. Jason is not just moving across town to the Quartermain Mansion or taking a brief weekend vacation to clear his head. He is plotting a massive, life-altering world tour for just him and Danny. We are talking about a complete and total extraction from the toxic web of Port Charles. Jason wants to take Danny far, far away from the memories of WSB agents, mob hits, and police interrogation. He wants to show his son the world, to bond over new experiences in places where the name Morgan or Corinthos means absolutely nothing to the locals. Imagine the healing that can happen when they are just two guys traveling, exploring, and rebuilding their fractured relationship without the constant shadow of death hanging over their heads. This is Jason's ultimate redemption arc as a father. He is trading his leather jacket and his 9mm for passports and plane tickets. It is a desperate, beautiful attempt to salvage Danny's innocence before the dark underbelly of the city consumes him completely. Jason knows that if they stay, it is only a matter of time before Danny picks up a gun himself, trying to emulate the dangerous life his father led. This global adventure is the only cure. They are going to visit places Jason only dreamed of, places where they can breathe fresh air and not have to look over their shoulders every 5 seconds. It is a profound testament to how much Jason loves this boy, willing to leave behind everything he knows, every alliance he has forged, to ensure Danny gets a real chance at a normal, happy life. But that's not even the craziest part. Now, we have to talk about the collateral damage of this massive decision, and her name is Britt Westbourne. Oh, guys, my heart absolutely aches for Britt just thinking about this impending disaster. She has just been through the absolute ringer, surviving the terrifying ordeal on the run in the British Virgin Islands, the horrifying realization about her fake Huntington's disease diagnosis, and the devastating, soul-crushing loss of her brother, Cassius Faison. Britt is completely untethered right now. She is desperately clinging to any lifeline she can find in a town that constantly reminds her of her trauma and her failures. When she hears the whispers of Jason leaving the mob, of him packing his bags and preparing for a massive international journey, she immediately assumes that this is their golden chance. Britt envisions a romantic escape, a fresh start where she and Jason can finally be together without the mob interfering or the threat of a terminal illness hanging over her head. She practically throws herself at the idea, ready to pack her own bags and join the Morgan men on this grand adventure. She thinks this is the universe finally giving her a break, a chance to rebuild her shattered life with the man she still holds incredibly deep feelings for. She remembers their past connection, the way he protected her when she was at her lowest, and she genuinely believes that she fits perfectly into this new chapter Jason is writing. She approaches him, her heart on her sleeve, fully expecting him to welcome her with open arms and a plane ticket with her name on it. But that's not even the craziest part. Here is the absolute climax, the crushing reality check that will leave you gasping for air. When Britt approaches Jason, her eyes full of hope, ready to leave her painful past behind, Jason shuts her down with a cold, unwavering finality. He tells her, in no uncertain terms, that she cannot come. This trip is not a romantic getaway, it is a critical rescue mission for his son's soul. Jason makes it brutally clear that this journey is exclusively for him and Danny. He has to focus 100% of his energy on being a father, and he cannot afford any distractions, not even her. He tells her that bringing a romantic partner along would completely defeat the purpose of the trip, which is to rebuild the fragile trust and bond between a father and his son. The rejection is going to hit Britt like a runaway freight train, shattering her fragile hopes into a million tiny pieces. She's going to feel abandoned all over again, left behind in Port Charles to pick up the pieces of her life while the man she loves flies off into the sunset. It is a deeply tragic moment, but it highlights just how serious Jason is about his commitment to Danny. He is not willing to compromise his son's healing for his own romantic desires or to soothe Britt's loneliness. It is a harsh truth, but is the reality of a man who has finally realized what his true priorities must be. The devastation in Britt's eyes will be hard to watch, but Jason will not budge. He is stone cold when it comes to protecting his family, and right now, Danny is the only family he is focused on. And if we look behind the curtain, ladies, we know the real, long-buried secret driving this narrative. We have to talk about the man behind the leather jacket. Steve Burton is dealing with significant personal matters off-screen, and the brilliant writers had to craft a sudden, believable exit for his character. This world tour is the perfect vehicle to write Jason off the canvas temporarily without killing him off, throwing him back in a federal prison, or doing a terrible recast that the fans would absolutely reject. It honors the character's profound love for his son and his recent on-screen revelations while perfectly accommodating the actor's need for a hiatus. It is a masterful, albeit heartbreaking maneuver by the writers to pause Jason's storyline. We all know Steve Burton is the heart and soul of that character, and giving him a peaceful, father-centric exit is the most respectful way to handle his temporary absence. However, I want to reassure you all that I do not believe for one single second that this is a permanent goodbye. Jason Morgan and Port Charles are intrinsically linked by decades of history and blood. He may be leaving with Danny for a few months to travel the globe, and Steve Burton may be taking a much-needed break to handle his life, but the gravitational pull of his hometown will eventually bring him back. When Steve is ready to return, the writers will have a completely clean slate. Jason will come back refreshed, having bonded with Danny, and ready to face whatever new, terrifying threats have emerged in his absence. This exit is simply closing one chapter so that an even more explosive one can begin later this year. But as Jason and Danny board that plane, leaving a furious Sonny, a devastated Britt, and a completely stunned Port Charles in their wake, we have to ask ourselves, how long can Stone Cold truly stay away from the fire? When the dust settles and a new, unprecedented threat emerges from the shadows to target the vulnerable people he left behind, will his peaceful fatherly retreat be violently interrupted? Just wait until you see who is secretly watching them at their very first international destination.